Now we come to the last of the rare stems. Although this is a rare stem, it actually is a very common stem in terms of this one verb. It is the hish tough L of the root chava. Now the verbal form that you get in the perfect would be a hish tachava, to bow down, to worship, and it's received considerable attention from lexicographers. It was traditionally thought to have been a hith-palel formation from the root shin het he. And if you were to look it up in Brown Driver Briggs, well, it would turn out that Brown Driver Briggs would show it exactly that way. For some reason it disappeared when I clicked on it. But if you looked it up in Brown Driver Briggs on page 1005, it actually takes it as the root shin het he and hit-palel type form. However, in some of the other Semitic languages, there is a form known as a shafal, and that seems to be where the sheen is coming from. That is, the sheen comes not from the root, but rather is a preformative, similar in meaning to the hiffial. It'd be a causative type stem. In fact, in Aramaic, you had a shafal that eventually became pronounced hafal, similar to the hiffial in Hebrew. But anyway, more recent grammarians believe now that the real root is het vav he with a shafal sheen and a hit for a reflexive type form. But the sheen and the infix t have interacted, as we've seen before with the hith-palels, by having metathesis, so that the sheen and the tav have exchanged places in the form. So originally the form would have been a hit sha'ava, but it ends up being hish ta'ava with metathesis of the tav and the sheen going on there. Anyway, the shafal stem in East Semitic corresponds to the hiffial causative of Northwest Semitic, and this with the hit added to it would make it reflexive plus causative. You get some of those type forms in Aramaic as well, which is also Northwest Semitic. But in any case, it's a pretty common word, so we have a fairly complete paradigm that can be put out for it: the perfect, the imperfect, the preterite with the vav consecutive, and the like. So that's that particular rather common form, the hishtafel form of hava. And it means to worship or to bow down, to prostrate oneself, as sometimes to kings. But that's the meaning. Well, let's say a little bit about the vocabulary. And the vocabulary will emphasize some of these forms that occur in irregular stems. So bosh means to be ashamed, but it does occur in the hith-palel, to be ashamed before one another. And there he gives you a form, hish bosheshu. And then chava, that's the one that's really common, meaning to bow down, to worship, to prostrate oneself. And again, Brown Driver Briggs analyzes it as a shacha root, but really the root appears to be a chet vav he. And then you have the root kun, which in the polel means to set up. The perfect form shows up as konain, and set up, to establish, to make ready. Mut we've seen before, but it occurs in the polel, motate, meaning to make something dead, to kill. And then kum we've seen before, to stand, arise, but in the polel it means to raise something, komem. And then arum, which means to be high, in the polel means to raise something, to lift it up, and the perfect form of that is romem. Noun forms. You have gavul, which means a border, a territory, or a boundary. It can mean the border between one place and another, but it could mean the entire border and hence the whole territory. And then chalom is a dream. And then hamor is a male donkey. Urea is the moon. Jericho seems to be related to this word. Apparently they worship the moon god at Jericho, Urea. And a related form is Yera, which is one of the words for month. And then kedem means in front of or east. And maybe a little bit about directions. You always oriented yourself towards the east. In fact, the word orient has to do with east. And so when you orient yourself towards the east or towards the rising of the sun, well then kedem is in front of you. But then in terms of the directions, it would be in the front once you're oriented, and hence the east. So it has both meanings, front or in front of, and also east. The next form, which he gives you the gloss midst, is in error. It should be, and I'm making a correction here, reporting a typo. It should be kareb rather than kedem. Kedem is simply a repeating of the same form here. He actually has it correct in the dictionary in the back. In the dictionary in the back on page 501, it shows karev, meaning midst or interior, so of mind and heart. And so anyway, that was a mistake. So learn karev, meaning midst, not kedem. That was a mistake. And then the final vocabulary item is shemesh, which is the sun. In Akkadian, the sun god was named Shamash. You can see the similarities between Shemesh and Shamash. One of the cities in Israel was Bet Shemesh. And Bet Shemesh is probably a Canaanite city where they had a bet, or a house, meaning a temple, for the sun god, Bet Shemesh. The exercises will help you practice these uncommon stems. So he gives you a bunch of exercises for trying out those forms. And then you have a section of translate into English, and you parse any verbs. And again, some of these forms are going to be the polal and different types of forms that we have. And then kind of encouraging at the end, he tells you to read. I presume he means by that read and translate a major section from Genesis chapter 37, which is the beginning of the Joseph story. And he does give you some glosses to help you. So you have megure, and if you touch the letter that's by it, that means sojournings of. And you have the bilha, and again he gives you a hint, oh, that's a personal name, Bilha, and so on and so forth. You might consider reading this in Logos software package, and having, say, Brown Driver Briggs up at the same time so that you can and link the two, and you should be able to go from the word to the meaning. Oh, excuse me. You go to the dictionary by just touching on the word, clicking on the word. So what you can do, you can take your Hebrew text and set it to set A, and you can take Brown Driver Briggs and you can set it to set A. And then if you get a word you don't know, let's say you don't recognize Yeshev, well then you can click on that and it'll take you to the entry that'll tell you that the root is Yeshav, and then you can read through the entry to find that this is the Vav consecutive form for Yeshav. Or if you go to Jacob, you don't know that word, oh, that's a personal proper name, Jacob, and on down the list. So that's a little hint for how you can do things quickly or the like. So Jacob dwelt in the land of the sojournings of his father is how it all begins, with the Vav consecutive form and sojournings of, and then his father. Anyway, hope you enjoy doing the homework, and we'll talk to you later.